Hello, this is Joe from Nerd in Korea. We are starting a new series on looking at budget modal counterspells. So this is part of our kind of mechanics series, but yeah, we're starting a more specific group on modal spells and starting with modal counterspells. So first of all, what do I mean by budget? $2 or less according to the TCG market value, not a sponsor, not one bit. What is a modal spell? Modal spells are spells that allow you to choose between options available. So it gives you usually 2 to 3 options on one spell, which is basically like having a card that can function like other cards. Having options, I think, is like the most powerful thing in Magic, really. Often the modal spell does not have as good an option as other spells. So the downside is that the options are usually like not as powerful as just like cards that only do one thing, or the CMC, the converted mana cost, is higher. So it costs more mana, or it doesn't do as much. Having a modal counterspell may have a higher CMC, but is more flexible to make up for the, is more than able to make it up with the flexibility they offer. So again, the flexibility offered, actually a lot of these don't even have very high CMCs, but maybe they're much more specific or something like that. Okay, so going to kind of see that with our honorable mentions. Okay, I guess not honorable mentions. Popular budget cards is what I'm looking at. So Archmage's Charm. This was actually like, I think this was over $5 not too long ago. For 3 blue. Okay, 3 blue is a lot for a counterspell, right? Also, keeping 3 blue open is maybe not the easiest thing, but anyway. Choose one. Counter target spell. Target player draws 2 cards or gain control of target non-land permanent with mana value 1 or less. So you can use this to just steal someone's soul ring if you want. It's very, very good, actually. 3 blue might sound steep, but if you're using it to steal a mana rock, like Soul Ring, then it's worth it. Anyway, 47 cents. And for 1 and 2 blue, you find the villain's lair, foil their scheme, counter target spell, or learn their secrets, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. So this does have the card draw, but you have to discard. So it's, if you do have a decent hand, or a decent sized hand, I should say, drawing 2, discarding 2, very good. If you have 0, draw 2, discard 2, you're back to 0. So it's somewhat situational for card draw, but it is very good for the counter spell. Anyway, 12 whole cents for that one. Finally, I think this is an amazing one. I gotta start putting this in all my decks, or all my decks I can. Soul Manipulation. 1 a blue and a black. I believe that's Demir, right? Yeah. Choose 1 or both. Okay, so this is different because you can just do both if you want to. This isn't only choose 1. You can just do both. If you're doing both, this is worth it. 3 mana to do both of these. Again, counter target creature spell. It does have to be a creature spell. Lots of those. That's not much of a limitation. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Graveyard Recursion. Frankly, this is, you can say maybe count as paying 1 black for Graveyard Recursion, and then 1 and a blue for the counter spell, counter target creature spell. That's still a deal. And this is something I feel like you're going to be able to use in the game pretty easily, especially if you're playing Commander. You can counter someone's Commander and get something back into your graveyard. That's a spicy combination right there. Anyway, 17 cents. Number 5. Warping Whale. Okay, so this is exile target creature with power 1 or toughness 1 or less. That can actually affect a lot of creatures. A lot of like creatures that you have just to like perform a function will have that like very low toughness or attack power. Counter target sorcery spell, or put a 1/1 Eldrazi Scion that you can sacrifice for mana, for a colorless mana. Sure, why not? The main one here is the counter target sorcery spell. Countering a sorcery spell is actually very, very good. It might sound very niche, but remember, most board wipes are sorcery speed, right? They're sorceries. So yeah, a lot of board wipes, a good number anyway, are going to end up being a sorcery. So if you want to be able to counter those, this is going to do that. The real downside on this one though is one in a colorless. The colorless does have to be paid with a colorless. It's not just any mana you can use. You do need a source of colorless mana. So if you have a soul ring, hey, all good. If you have an untapped soul ring, you can just cast this, right? You need a land that creates colorless mana, which there are plenty of, or yeah, an artifact that's going to make that the colorless mana. And it does have to be the colorless. That's what I want to stress here. Anyway, 49 cents. Actually, I'd be amazed if you have this in your hand and you don't have a target for it. Number 4, Decisive Denial. This is a Simic counter, so yeah, getting a little more variety there. And target creature you control fights target creature you don't control, or counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 3. So the pays 3 thing, I think a lot of people go, oh, yeah, they're going to be able to pay 3 more. First of all, maybe. Secondly, if it's their second or third spell, they probably won't, right? Also, if they're using a counter spell, this is where it's really useful for shutting down counter spells, right? If someone has counterspell, cost 2, and then 3 more open, if they have 5 open mana, they can counter this, right? If they're trying to use counterspell, usually they have 2 open, not 3 extra, right? If this is great for shutting down people's counterspells is the main thing, but also being able to use one of your creatures to fight another creature directly and remove some kind of threat. This is a lot more useful than people get credit for anyway. 4 whole cents for that. 4 cents. I mean, can you afford not to get it? Number 3. Change the equation. That's where our background art comes from. Counter target spell with mana value 2 or less. And remember, this is 1 in a blue, so it's easier to cast at least than like a standard counter spell, where it's blue. Counter target red or green spell with mana value 6 or less. Okay, so if it's red or green, usually it has to be 2 or less. Mana value 6 or less for a red or green spell. That's actually very, very good. Red or green is more likely to have those higher casting costs on their spell. Again, if it's above 6, you can't really do anything, but if it's 6 and under, you can shut down any red or green. If you're playing, especially in a kind of multiplayer format, I would be shocked if they don't have red or green. Even if they have, like, any non-mono deck is going to probably have one of those, and even mono decks can be red or green, right? This is going to work against a lot of decks a very large amount of the time is my point. Anyway, 12 cents. Number 2. Insidious Will. Okay, the casting cost on this one is the main downside. So 2 blue, basically double the cost of a standard counterspell. You know, not in colored mana, but the CMC. Anyway, choose 1. This gives you 3 options, not 2. Counter target spell, any spell. You may choose new targets for target spells, so you can just, if a spell is targeting something and you don't want it to, change it, right? Someone casts a spell to like kill your commander, you're like, no, it targets your commander now. That kind of effect, I think, is underrated, because like people don't want to do it again. If people at the table are like, see you go, oh no, actually that kills your own commander now, they're not going to want to like cast anything on you after that, because they're like, oh, I'm worried they're going to like turn it around and kill my own stuff. Anyway, Copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. This is just an amazing ability to have on hand. Anything, instant or sorcery, that your opponents bust out, you can be like, oh yeah, me too. And then, yeah. A lot of the really big tricks in a deck are going to be those instants or sorceries. You can easily, I think, get something that's worth more than 4 mana and copy it and get a really impressive effect from it. The downside of that, of course, is depends on your opponent's doing stuff, right? But still, your opponent's going to do something. Assuming your opponents are not going to do anything during a game is kind of silly. But anyway, 52 cents. And, oh, please hit like and subscribe. It really does help out a lot, okay? And number 1. Reverse the polarity. This is one of those Doctor Who cards, as you might be able to tell. Choose one. Okay, this has 2 amazing options on it. First of all, counter target spell. It is 1 blue and blue, so more expensive than a standard counter spell, but not by much. Option number 2 is switch each creature's power and toughness until end of turn. Might come in handy, maybe, you never know. The second amazing option, though, is creatures can't be blocked this turn. This is a finisher, right? You play this, you just take someone out of the next combat. That's it. Technically, creatures can be blocked does not have to be your creatures, so you can also use it to let someone else attack someone else for free. Again, you gotta trust that they're not gonna turn around and just like attack you anyway, but yeah. Anyway, 49 cents for that one. This is actually why I wanted to make this video. I saw this the other day, someone posted on the Budget Facebook group, and I was like, oh wow, that's an amazing card. A counterspell and makes all your creatures unblockable for 3 mana? Okay, sure. This card would not have been printed like even 5 years ago. I think this would just be like off the table. But anyway, getting to the list. Warping Whale, 49 cents. Decisive Denial, 4 cents. Change the Equation, 12 cents. This is just incredible. This shouldn't be 12 cents. Insidious Will, 52 cents. The high casting cost is the main downside. Its upsides are just huge. Finally, Reverse the Polarity, 49 cents. I'm going to order a bunch of these just to have them kicking around, because this is a card that's going to go way up in value. Even the fact that it's 49 cents right now makes no sense. Anyway, take it easy.